The rain in Seattle falls like memory, steady, unrelenting, cleansing nothing. Evelyn Hart, 29, adjusts her champagne glass at her sister's engagement party, watching Natalie, 31, glow beneath the ballroom's crystal light. The guests orbit Natalie as if drawn to her gravitational field, each laugh rehearsed, each compliment polished like cut glass. Their mother, Margaret, 58, floats nearby, eyes filled with pride that has always been one-sided. Evelyn smiles politely, her reflection caught between chandeliers and champagne, between what is seen and what is swallowed. Leo Tran, 30, watches her from across the room, reading the quiet in her stillness. Somewhere in that silence, Evelyn's restraint begins to fracture, invisible but fatal. Later that night, Evelyn drives home in silence. The city's wet streets mirror her thoughts, luminous, fractured, endless. Natalie's laughter still echoes in her ears, echoing years of subtle cruelty, dressed as sisterly tease. "You're just jealous," Natalie had whispered once when Evelyn earned her first design award. That phrase never left her. It had built a small room in her chest, one that Evelyn had lived in for years. But tonight, that room begins to shake. Something shifts, not anger, not revenge yet, just the quiet recognition of injustice too long endured. Back home, Evelyn sits at her drafting table, surrounded by blueprints and unfinished models. The hum of her desk lamp fills the silence. She studies the lines she's drawn, controlled, symmetrical, perfect, unlike the jagged outlines of her life. For years, she had believed success meant being good enough for her sister to notice, for her mother to approve. But tonight, the realization settles like dust. She doesn't want their approval anymore. She wants peace, and the quiet kind of power that comes with not needing to be seen. The next morning, sunlight struggles through gray clouds as Evelyn pours coffee into a porcelain mug. The kitchen is quiet, clean, and lonely. She scrolls through social media. Natalie's engagement photos flood every feed. Each image is curated perfection. Every caption steeped in affection that feels like performance. Evelyn sets the phone down. For the first time, she doesn't flinch. She just exhales softly, as if releasing a name she no longer needs to answer to. Outside, the city hums awake. Evelyn steps onto her balcony, inhaling the crisp air. Below her, people hurry through rain with umbrellas like small shields. She feels something new stirring. Not bitterness, but balance. She realizes revenge doesn't have to be rage. Sometimes it's simply reclaiming space in your own story. The wind tangles her hair, and she lets it. She's been still long enough. Change, she decides, doesn't have to shout. It can begin in silence and end in astonishment. Evelyn sits at her desk, her fingertips tracing the edges of an old photo album, a relic from childhood. The pages smell faintly of dust and faded ink. There they are. Two sisters smiling for the camera, their arms around each other, their eyes telling different stories. Natalie's smile was always for the lens. Evelyn's was for the person behind it. As the memories unfold, she remembers not one defining cruelty, but hundreds of tiny ones, each masked as love. The kind of hurt that doesn't leave bruises, only habits. And for the first time, she allows herself to name it. In her mind, Evelyn returns to a sunlit backyard. She is 8. Natalie is 10. Their mother, Margaret, praises Natalie's flawless piano recital, while Evelyn clutches a drawing she made just for her. "That's lovely, darling," Margaret says without looking, eyes fixed on her eldest's perfection. It's the first time Evelyn feels invisible, and it imprints like a fingerprint on glass, unseen but permanent. Years later, she realizes invisibility is something she learned to wear, not something she was born into. High school brought sharper edges. Natalie, already the adored senior, perfected the art of smiling while cutting. Evelyn remembers the day Natalie borrowed her essay topic for a writing contest and won. The teachers applauded her brilliance, and Natalie thanked Evelyn with a wink that said, "You'll always be my shadow." That night, Evelyn cried in silence, not because she lost, but because no one noticed she ever tried. Adulthood didn't change the script. It only made the audience larger. At every family dinner, Natalie would turn Evelyn's achievements into anecdotes of comparison. "You're doing so well. Just not in that field," she'd say, smiling sweetly as their mother laughed. Evelyn learned to laugh too, to nod, to shrink. But even then, deep down, a quiet part of her took notes. Every insult catalogued, every smirk remembered. Not for vengeance, but for understanding. Pain is patient when it waits for purpose. Back in the present, Evelyn closes the photo album and exhales. The ghosts of small humiliations dissolve into quiet acceptance. She's not broken by them anymore. She's cataloged them, understood them, stripped them of their power. And somewhere inside that stillness, she begins to form an idea, not of revenge through cruelty, but through presence. A way to rewrite every moment Natalie tried to erase. A way to be remembered without having to demand it. The following weekend, Evelyn visits her mother's home for dinner. Another ritual of comparison disguised as family. The air smells of rosemary and expectation. Natalie arrives late, her presence filling the room like perfume. She compliments Evelyn's dress, then corrects her posture. "You're lucky, Eve," she says, slicing her roast with surgical grace. "You never have to compete." "I do." The words hang between them like smoke. Evelyn smiles faintly, her silence sharper than any retort. For the first time, she sees her sister's cruelty not as power, but as proof of fear. After dinner, Evelyn steps outside. The garden smells of rain and earth. Natalie follows, her heels clicking against the stone path. "You've always been jealous, Eve," she says softly, almost tenderly, as if it's a confession instead of an accusation. Evelyn doesn't look at her. "Maybe," she replies, voice calm. "But not of what you think." Natalie laughs, short, dismissive, and walks back inside. Evelyn remains beneath the dripping maple tree, her pulse steady. For the first time, she doesn't feel small, she feels still. The kind of stillness that comes before transformation. Days pass. Evelyn buries herself in her work, drafting lines and angles that always lead to symmetry, something life never gave her. Leo visits her studio, bringing coffee and his knowing calm. "You're too quiet," he says. She smiles. Quiet doesn't mean calm. Leo studies her expression, then nods. "So, what's next?" Evelyn pauses, pen tapping the paper rhythmically. "Something honest," she answers. Her voice is steady now, her eyes holding that rare mixture of pain and clarity, the kind that builds blueprints for justice. That evening, Evelyn finds herself scrolling through old photos again, this time not to remember, but to study. Each image, each caption, each moment Natalie crafted to control perception. Perfect, radiant, blessed. Words that built a persona like a fortress. Evelyn closes her phone and lets the quiet fill the room. Maybe the only way to dismantle a lie isn't to fight it, but to live something so real. It makes the illusion collapse on its own. Later, as she stands before her mirror, Evelyn studies her reflection, not to critique, but to understand. For years, she'd been trained to measure herself against someone else's image. Tonight, she looks until she sees only herself. The woman who endured, adapted, and learned the power of stillness. Her reflection meets her gaze with quiet authority. The war her sister started long ago has ended, not in defeat, but in redefinition. The breaking point has come, and Evelyn is the one who broke free. Months pass. Seasons shift from rain to tentative spring. Evelyn's work gains quiet recognition. An article features her latest design, calling it A study in balance and restraint. She doesn't tell Natalie. She doesn't need to. At a gallery opening one evening, she meets Daniel Price, 33, poised, kind, and grounded. Their first conversation is effortless, like the silence between two people who don't need to prove themselves. When he laughs, she feels something rare. Ease without performance. She doesn't know, yet, that his name will change everything. Their friendship unfolds slowly, without tension. Daniel visits Evelyn's studio, genuinely interested in her work. He listens more than he speaks. A rhythm unfamiliar to her. When he touches her sketchbooks, he treats them like glass. Over time, laughter replaces her silence. Leo notices. "You're different," he says one evening, smiling over takeout boxes. Evelyn shrugs. "Maybe I just stopped trying to be small." What she doesn't realize yet is that this piece will soon test every scar she's learned to hide. Weeks later, Natalie calls. Her tone carries the usual polish. Sweet, performative, laced with competition. "I saw your article," she says. "You're really doing so well, Eve." Evelyn thanks her softly. Then Natalie adds, like dropping glass on marble. "Funny, though. You remember Daniel Price? We went out once years ago." The world stills. Evelyn doesn't flinch. "I didn't know," she says, voice steady, almost tender. "But thank you for telling me." Natalie laughs lightly. "Just thought you should." When the call ends, Evelyn sits in silence and smiles, not out of triumph, but inevitability. Evelyn tells Daniel the truth, gently, without accusation. He listens, surprised but composed. "It was years ago," he says. "A few dates, nothing real." She nods. I know what she doesn't say is that it's perfect, poetic in its symmetry. Natalie had taken from her all her life. Now, without trying, life has given her something Natalie can't control. It isn't revenge yet, just balance. But balance, Evelyn thinks, is how storms begin. Later that night, Evelyn writes in her sketchbook. Not blueprints, but words. "Justice doesn't always roar," she writes. Sometimes it waits, sometimes it smiles. The rain outside thrums, steady against her window. She looks at Daniel's name on her phone, hesitates, then types a message. "Dinner Friday." As she presses send, her reflection in the glass stares back. Patient, resolute, quietly luminous. She doesn't plan revenge. She designs it with time, precision, and the grace of inevitability. Spring hums like a secret beneath Seattle's rain. Evelyn and Daniel's relationship deepens naturally. No games, no control. He treats her honesty like treasure. One evening, as they walk by the waterfront, he pauses, holding her hand. "I never thought I'd find peace like this," he says. She smiles, but a flicker of knowing passes through her eyes. Because peace for Evelyn isn't just serenity. It's justice disguised as grace. When Daniel kneels under the faint glow of a streetlight, ring in hand, she doesn't gasp. She simply exhales, as if the universe finally exhaled with her. Evelyn tells no one for 2 days. She keeps the moment sacred, untouched by noise. Then, on a quiet Sunday morning, she places the ring on her nightstand and looks at it like an architect looks at a finished model. Perfect in proportion, balanced in symmetry. Leo visits later that day. When she shows him, his grin is pure mischief. "Oh," he says, "this is going to burn beautifully." Evelyn only laughs, soft, controlled, knowing. For the first time, the story no longer feels like survival. It feels like art. Evelyn drafts her engagement announcement that evening. No captions dripping with excess. No comparisons. No performance. Just a single photo of her and Daniel. Simple and true. "You're really going to post it?" Leo asks. "At exactly the right time," she replies. Her calm carries precision. It's not vanity, but restoration. For once, she controls the narrative, and she will unveil it with elegance, not anger. The beauty of revenge, she thinks, is not its noise, but its timing. That night, Natalie hosts another dinner, flawless as ever, a curated spectacle of gold, flatware, and hollow laughter. Evelyn arrives late, unannounced. Natalie's surprise flickers into irritation. "You came," she says, "airily." Evelyn smiles. "I wouldn't miss it." Throughout the evening, Evelyn says little, only listening. The storm has not yet broken, but she feels it trembling beneath the tablecloth. When Natalie toasts herself once again, Evelyn glances at her phone. She presses a single button. Somewhere, quietly, truth begins to travel. Minutes later, the digital world shifts. Phones buzz softly around the table, one by one. Natalie's smile falters as whispers ripple. Evelyn's engagement post, pristine and understated, appears everywhere. A photo of Evelyn and Daniel, laughter caught mid-breath, joy unposed. Natalie stares, her face hollowing as recognition hits, not of betrayal, but of loss. Evelyn doesn't gloat. She doesn't even look her sister's way. She simply raises her glass, the faintest smile on her lips. "To love," she says. And for the first time, everyone listens. By morning, Evelyn's announcement has become the city's whisper. Friends, family, colleagues, all reacting to the photo of serenity that needs no explanation. Natalie wakes to a flood of messages. "Daniel Price? Your sister? Did you know?" She scrolls until her hands shake. The world that once adored her is now curious, questioning, hungry. In her perfect kitchen, surrounded by gold and glass, Natalie realizes she has lost the one thing she values most: control of the narrative. And her silence suddenly feels louder than Evelyn's calm ever was. Margaret calls Evelyn that afternoon, her tone sharp with disbelief. "You couldn't have told me first?" she demands. Evelyn listens, her voice steady. "It wasn't about you, Mother." There's a pause, the kind that stretches decades. Margaret sighs, her voice faltering. Natalie's devastated. Evelyn looks out the window, watching sunlight scatter across the water. "She'll recover," she says gently. What she doesn't add, she always does. But not this time. Natalie spends the next days spiraling in silence. She posts nothing. A digital void where her constant glow once lived. Her followers notice. Speculation fills the gaps. Old photos are re-examined, captions dissected. The empire of perception begins to crumble, not through exposure, but through absence. Evelyn doesn't watch, doesn't need to. She goes about her days with quiet precision. Coffee, work, laughter with Leo. As if the world outside no longer decides her worth. Her peace is her rebellion. Eventually, Natalie calls. The voice on the line trembles, softer than Evelyn remembers. "You knew, didn't you?" she says. "About him." Evelyn pauses. "I knew you'd care," she replies simply. There's silence. Natalie tries to speak but can't. The truth finally arrives. Not with shouting, but surrender. Evelyn closes her eyes, her voice gentle but firm. "I never wanted to hurt you, Nat. I just stopped letting you hurt me." The line goes quiet. In that quiet, the power shifts forever. The following week, Natalie's absence from her own world becomes its own scandal. Her friends move on, her followers drift. Margaret hosts a family brunch to smooth things over, but Evelyn doesn't attend. She sends flowers instead. White lilies, elegant, wordless. No message, no explanation. Leo watches her arrange them. "Osier?" he asks. Evelyn smiles faintly. "No," she says. "Design." Her life finally, In her hands, measured, intentional, and free of noise. Weeks later, Natalie finally reaches out, asking to meet. They choose a quiet cafe overlooking Elliott Bay. Evelyn arrives first, calm and composed, her eyes reflecting neither anger nor triumph, only clarity. Natalie, 31, walks in, posture tense, elegance faltering. The years of rivalry hang between them, unspoken but heavy. "I wanted to understand," Natalie begins. Evelyn smiles softly. "I'm not sure there's anything to understand," she says gently. Silence stretches across the table, not bitter, but final. For the first time, the weight of the past doesn't control her. She does. The conversation is brief. Natalie flounders, trying to find footing in old narratives, but Evelyn listens without interruption. Each word Natalie speaks feels smaller than it once did, no longer capable of shaping her sister's world. Evelyn responds sparingly, each syllable calm and deliberate. No shame, no blame, only quiet finality. By the end, Natalie realizes she cannot provoke or unsettle the woman she once manipulated. The cafe is peaceful, but the air hums with subtle closure. Evelyn leaves the cafe without looking back. Natalie remains seated, absorbing the quiet shock of what she has lost, not materially, not socially, but emotionally. The sisters' world, once defined by constant competition, has shifted. Evelyn walks into the crisp evening air, carrying nothing but a small purse, the calm of a life reclaimed. Every step is deliberate, each one a subtle reclaiming of space once dominated by fear and comparison. The rain begins, light at first, tapping gently against the pavement. Evelyn doesn't shield herself. Each drop feels like absolution, washing away years of doubt and quiet pain. She pauses on a small bridge, looking at the city reflected in the water below. It's a mirror, not of what she endured, but of what she has become. Composed, resilient, luminous in her own right. In the reflection, she sees neither sister nor shadow, only herself, whole. Evelyn turns and walks toward home. Her pace is calm, the rhythm of someone who no longer measures life against another. Natalie will continue her life in a world slightly altered, but Evelyn doesn't dwell. She has discovered the power of stillness, of precision, of quiet justice. The city hums around her, rain dancing against glass and steel. In this moment, Evelyn is untouchable. Not through rage, not through spectacle, but through the serene artistry of living entirely on her own terms. The story closes not with sound, but with the echo of a life reclaimed.